and I went all the way up to $500 a day with some of them. So I had a bunch at 100 a day, a couple at 500 a day. Alright guys, what's going on? This is 4 things that I learned when I was scaling my first store. So in the beginning, we were doing about 3,000 a month, just testing a few different products, trying to see if we can kind of like tickle the water, see if we can bring it to the level that we were trying to bring it to. And the third month, we basically had 3 products that were doing pretty good. We dropped 2 of them, and we scaled one of them to around 20K. So these are the 4 things that I learned while doing that. I'm just going to jump right into it. So the first thing that I learned, and this is probably the thing that has stuck with me the most, and the thing that's the most important to me, is the importance of profit. Now, you see a lot of YouTubers and screenshots and Instagram posts and stuff of a lot of sales. Now, this used to like obviously get me excited, just as you guys probably are when you see those things too. Like, oh, these kind of numbers are possible. Like, we can do this. This is a good goal to work towards. But at the end of the day, that stuff didn't mean anything. Sales don't mean anything. You can spend $100 grand on a crappy product and make sales. It doesn't really matter. Like those screenshots that I was seeing, they were only exciting because of the profit. So if you take the profit out of the equation, it doesn't really matter anymore. So yeah, sales don't really mean anything. Cost per purchase is king. This is like, I learned this throughout scaling this product, that the number one thing that I was looking at most of the time was cost per purchase. I wasn't really looking at how many link clicks, how much it spent, how much the ROAS was. I wasn't really focused on that. I was really focused on cost per purchase, and that still lives with me to this day. There was even a time in my growth where my columns would literally only be cost per website purchase, the conversion value, and then the ROAS. Mainly because everything else was just a distraction to me. Now I look at everything so I can see kind of the way that stuff funnels through. But having that initial understanding that cost per purchase is king, the number one most important part, really helped me throughout the scaling strategy. So the second one, I scaled it pretty fast. So we did around maybe 3,000 in sales with this product. And I took it to around 17,500 with the one product in a month's time. So I scaled that pretty fast, and the way that I was doing it is I was taking $5 a day budgets and making them 20, and then if those did good, I would make them 50, and then if those did, and I wasn't editing, I was duplicating. And I went all the way up to $500 a day with some of them. So I had a bunch at 100 a day, a couple at 500 a day, and the reason why it wasn't good is mainly because it wasn't that profitable. Like I was trying to push the limit. I was trying to take advantage of the winning product too much. Like I was just trying to make money too fast, and it would have been a lot more profitable if I just let the $5 a days do their thing. And not only that, but if I just focused more on expanding outwards and finding more winning ad sets rather than just increasing the budget to the ones that I already had, I feel like it would have went a lot further and lasted a lot longer than it already did. Like I said, it would have been better to scale outwards more. Mainly because we would have had more to scale upwards when we did have the chance. I probably had around 20 ad sets, but I should have waited until I had 40 or 60. Then the consistency would have been on point. It would have been really good. One thing else that I learned is the algorithm is very sensitive. Adding one a day, the reason why that's one of the foundations of my strategy is when I was building the store, I was only making one a day. That's how I was taught. So one day I just made like 7 ad sets, and we were doing around 400 a day at the time. And so I added 4 ad sets one day, and for the next 3 days we did like maybe 2 or 3 sales. And I asked my mentor, I was like, "What's going on?" And he said, "What did you do?" And I made 7 ad sets, and he said, "Well, that's why. It's building a habit and then drifting away from that habit. It kind of makes the algorithm confused a little bit." So this is where I learned the hard way, like what happens when you don't stick to a system, when you don't stick to a strategy. And turning off ad sets, like those big budget ad sets that I had, when we turned them off, it also affected the algorithm a little bit. Meaning, like if we turned off a higher budget ad set, we would have a couple of bad days. Now I'm talking about like over a year ago this was going on. So I'm not saying that these things are true to this day. I'm just saying that these are kind of the things that built the foundation for what my strategy is today, and it's just been developing over time. 3, it's better to use things the way that they were built and not try to manipulate the system. So the situation that we were put in was the page post that we were using was built on an application outside of Facebook. So it was basically an application that integrated with Facebook, and you upload the video to the application, and it would let you make the page post inside the application, and then it would transfer it over to your Facebook page so that you can make ads on it. Now, I didn't even know that this was a thing. Like, I didn't know that this was going on while I was scaling it. Like I said, it was my client's store, so he must have did it beforehand. I had no idea. So what happened was around at the end of the month, when we already did like 17,000. I mean, we realized that the page post was deleted. Like, we had 2 or 3 days without sales, and we were spending about 300, 400 a day. So we had 2 or 3 days without sales. I checked the page post. The page post wasn't even there. So what happened was the company that we built the page post on, the third-party application, actually they closed down. So their website was no longer, their software was no longer working, and we lost everything. Like, we tried relaunching the ads with a new page post that we made the right way. It just wouldn't work. So that basically killed our entire system, right? So this can be examined with like having things that mess with the Facebook pixel, having things that mess with the sales funnel system of Shopify. They're not bad, but it's best to just leave things the way that they were built, especially like third-party apps that integrate with your pixel. Anything that integrates with Facebook, period, I usually stay away from, mainly for this reason, because you never know like what's going to happen. And in this situation, it was really bad. Like, I'm glad that I learned the lesson early and not on some of my later stores that were doing, 3, 4, 5K a day. So the last thing that I learned, and this is kind of something that everybody has mixed opinions on it, but in my experience, building systems while you're growing is a much more efficient use of your time than building all of your systems in the beginning. So I see people who, when they build their store, they want, all their email marketing on point. They want messenger bots, apps, like all this different stuff. And they just never get to the bag. And they're always focused on preparation, and they just never make it to the bag either. So it's like, in the beginning, the number one thing you should be focused on is making money, like finding a product that's going to generate income. So something that's going to get sales, something that you're going to be able to scale. And the only reason of email marketing apps, messenger marketing, is to make more money off of the money that you're already making, right? But in my opinion, like, you should be focused on making your first amount of money before trying to be focused on making more of it. Mainly because it's a focus thing. Like, you want your focus in the right place. I talk about this in many other videos, where if you're focused on email marketing, you're not focusing on finding a winning product, which is what's going to make your email marketing good. So, I mean, your focus is best spent, especially in the beginning, just focusing on getting your winning product and scaling it to a point where it's starting to be consistent. And then you can start looking into email marketing and all this stuff. And it's not bad to have a winning product without email marketing, without messenger bots, without apps, without upsells, any of this stuff. It's okay to do that, because I can tell you 100%, having a winning product feels way more better than having your systems in place from day one. Okay, I can tell you that from my experience.